Hello, and thanks for tuning in to another update video. I'm Sarah Stout, the Program Development Manager here at the National Association of Flight Instructors. If you're liking this video series, please subscribe to this channel and ring the bell to get notifications. If you aren't already a NAFI member, please consider joining. All are welcome on our website, nafimentor.org. NAFI memberships are what keep this content coming. Thank you for tuning in to the NAFI YouTube channel for the March 2025 Regulatory and Policy Update video. If you haven't already heard, the FAA has decided to indefinitely defer the medical policy initially denying applications that didn't have enough appropriate evidence with them at the time of application if that evidence was necessary. This is great news for the general aviation community, though it is still a good idea to be as prepared as possible before applying for a medical certificate. Check out the recent episode of NAFI's More Right Rudder podcast with Dr. Keith Roxo of Wingman Med, where we discuss ways to be prepared for your medical exam. In the rest of this video, we'll cover the FAA's initiative to modernize Part 141 for certificated pilot schools, changes to terminal procedures publication chart supplement, an editorial revision to the BasicMed Advisory Circular, and we'll wrap up with reminders about the TSA's new rules for flight training providers and the U.S. address requirement. This month, the FAA kicked off a year-long initiative to modernize Part 141. Some of the regulations in Part 141 are over 50 years old, and it's time to take a modern look. All flight training stakeholders are welcome and encouraged to participate. The introductory meeting, attended by NAFI staff and board members, laid out the proposed path for this initiative. A PDF of the presentation is available on the FAA's website, linked in the show notes. If you're interested in hearing the discussion that went on during the first meeting, you can watch the recording of the entire first meeting. It's about an hour and 45 minutes long on the FAA's YouTube channel. We'll include a link in the show notes. Over the coming months, the FAA will host a series of hybrid and virtual meeting options, each covering a predetermined set of topics. These topics include certification, certificate management, risk mitigation, and emerging technologies, among others. The next meeting, scheduled for April 1st through 3rd, will be hybrid with an in-person option at the FAA Southern Regional Office in College Park, Georgia. Please note that this is the same week as Sun and Fun. After that, the initiative meeting schedule includes dates in May, June, July, October, November, and December at various locations with a virtual option or are virtual only. If you're considering attending a meeting in person, be aware that capacity is limited and you must register in advance. All dates after the April 1st through 3rd meeting are tentative. Dates become finalized when they are published to the Federal Register. If you'd like to submit comments on any particular meeting or the initiative as a whole, that can be done on the Federal Register. You're also welcome to provide your thoughts and feedback to nafimentor.org. Remember, you can create an account on the Federal Register and sign up for notifications. All details and resources are on the FAA's website for this initiative are linked in the show notes. Effective April 17th, 2025, the rate of climb descent table will be separated into two tables, one for climb and one for descent. The FAA did not publish a preview of these new pages. Keep an eye out for this change in the Terminal Procedures Publications Chart Supplement and the Digital Procedures Publications. EFB users, be sure that this document is captured in your updates on April 17th, along with the normal charting cycle update scheduled for that day. An editorial revision to Advisory Circular 68-1 Alpha BasicMed has been published. The bulk of the changes are wording and format revisions. The biggest change in this document is the removal of Appendix A, which was a draft copy of the Comprehensive Medical Examination Checklist. You can find that document on the FAA's BasicMed website. At the time of this publication, the editorial revision was not yet available on the FAA's main advisory circular website, but available on the Dynamic Regulatory System. You'll find a link to DRS in the show notes. NAFI has heard from several sources of the TSA reaching out to CFIs and flight schools about routine inspections, and those CFIs and flight schools not being aware of the rule change that occurred in July 2024. All flight training providers, including those who exclusively provide training to U.S. citizens, must become familiar with the new rules, particularly the requirement to designate a security coordinator and register with the FTSP website. There are a wealth of resources available to training providers to become familiar with the new rule. The resources in the show notes include a recent episode of NAFI's More Right Rudder podcast, where I sat down with the TSA program manager for the Flight Training Security Program, a link to the final rule in the Federal Register, and a link to the TSA's Flight Training Security Program website. The user guides section of the FTSP website is particularly useful for comprehensive plain language guidance. As a final reminder, in about 2 weeks from the time this video is published, the requirement for a U.S. address or U.S. agent for service for airmen applying for certificates under a wide range of airman certification regulatory parts comes into effect. The official date for that requirement is April 2nd, 2025. The December 2024 and January 2025 videos in this series cover all the details and contain all of the resources. Thank you again for tuning into this video series. If you aren't already a NAFI member, please consider joining us at nafimentor.org. NAFI members are what keep this video series going. Be one of the first to know when a new video is released by subscribing to the channel and clicking the bell for notifications. We'll see you next month.